Hi, this is Juliet Yelverton here at Healing Water Sanctuary, and I thought you might be interested to hear about the new training that's happening in 2016. We're at the end of the 2015 training, and the new training, Taking Your Healing Skills to a New Level, is geared at carers and healing practitioners in equipping them with trauma healing skills. And I'd like to introduce to you Maia Pelham Green, who has been doing the training with me. And Maia's had a very interesting experience because, first of all, she came to work with me because she'd experienced a very serious accident, which you might have seen the video about because we did video that previously. And as a result of the healing work that she did with me, Maia then started working as a therapist, a masseur, and you had some other therapy skills as well, didn't you, Maia, that you did? Yeah, that you trained with. And then she decided to join the training in 2015, which is a 6-module long training. And I just want to speak with Maia and for her to share with you how that was for her doing that training. So Maia, we're almost at the end. We've got 2 more modules to go. How do you feel that it's made a difference in your life?
It's indescribable, really. I mean, before I started the training in myself, I was so anxious. At times I couldn't even muster the energy to leave the house. And I got 2 dogs to walk, so they suffered for it. I wasn't living. I was just trying to cope with what I was processing, which was a lot of trauma and a lot of pain. And without any real skills or knowledge, I did what most people do, which is to numb it out, as opposed to actually processing it on a deep level. But the problem with that is I numbed out all the good stuff too. I wasn't really living, I was just existing.
So what was the difference with that feeling of just existing? What's the difference before doing the... because things started to change when we did the trauma work, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So that there's another change that's happened after doing the training, which is different from what happened with the trauma healing work.
Well, it's sort of the difference between having your senses and not having your senses. You can taste and smell and see and experience things in their entirety, in their depth. It's like the difference between a little black and white TV and a 3D coloured TV. I mean, the depth and the quality is completely different. And I was missing all of that because it was too painful.
So that started to change when we did the trauma healing. What was it about doing the training that then took that another step further?
Well, you have the opportunity to do both, to work with your own trauma and to assist others, and that provides a whole other level of understanding with trauma. It's very empowering for me anyway. It was very empowering to deal with other people's trauma as well as my own. It almost gives you permission to deal with your own more.
Okay. And you said something to me earlier about feeling more connected, a sense of not being so isolated.
Yes. Yeah. When I came to the training originally, I was stuck in my own head with the trauma. I felt alone. I felt no one could understand what I was going through. No one should understand. And I was all alone. I had to cope with it on my own, which wasn't true, but that's what I felt. And what the training did was make me realise I wasn't alone. There were people willing to work with me and I was willing to work with them, and that we could all go through it together. And it felt so much more powerful to do it in that way.
And also you learnt much more about how the nervous system functions, so that you were able to see that maybe that when you went into an activation, what your body did in that moment is what other people's bodies will do also, with the shutting down, the numbing and so on. So it was, perhaps it was less like taking it personally, that I'm responsible for being disconnected, and less beating yourself up because
you realise other people are going through the same thing, and it's a very natural process to go through.
Yeah.
And that's definitely helped with the reconnecting with people and realising I'm not alone, because it's very common.
Yeah. And that issues such as guilt and self-blame and shame, which are incredibly powerful negative emotions that go along with experiencing trauma. So those, realising that those feelings are what anyone goes through when they experience trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So I think one of the things that happened was about not feeling that you were responsible for the event that caused the trauma.
Yeah.
Because I think many people, when they're traumatised, immediately feel like if only they'd done such and such or hadn't done this, then the trauma wouldn't have happened. Yeah.
And that's a huge weight for anyone who's dealing with trauma, is the feelings of guilt or shame that come with it. And they don't serve, I mean, they're natural and we all get them, but they don't serve any purpose in helping us to move on from the trauma. And understanding that really helped to let go of a lot of it. Yeah. Because they don't serve any purpose.
But they are an added weight on healing trauma, that until you can take that layer off, it's very hard to get to the other stuff underneath. Yeah. So in what other ways did doing the training change your life?
Well, it helped me as a therapist a huge amount. A huge amount. I mean, I could never really fully be there for my clients because I projected my own trauma and my own wounds onto them without even realising it. Even with the best of intentions of wanting to help this client. Because I didn't know what my trauma was or what my triggers or activations were, I could never predict when a client would stimulate them in me.
So could you give an example of how you might have projected something onto a client?
Well, you could say I had a client last year who came to me for a series of treatments, and there was a certain phrase she used that reminded me of a family member, and it reminded me of being told off by that family member. So I didn't realise at the time, but I was subconsciously a bit cross with this client, and she's coming to me for healing, and I'm almost a bit reluctant to really give my all to her because I was cross with her for something that she hadn't done.
But the reality was that you weren't cross with her, you were cross with you were having a fight or flight activation from a distressing experience that had happened between you and a family member. Yeah.
So I wasn't in the present. I wasn't just seeing her for who she was, a client of mine who wanted healing. I was in effect seeing her as a family member who was telling me off. But when she used that phrase.
But actually not conscious that you were doing that at all.
No, not at all. And now I am, and I can see that so much more. I can notice my triggers and my activations very easily, and therefore don't have to project onto my clients because I know it's my stuff, and I know how to work through it now.
So on the training you learnt skills in order to fully hold your own trauma alongside understanding what the activations are.
And also because we worked in groups, it was very easy for someone there to do something that was going to trigger you. So it provided a wonderful opportunity to work through some of the stuff right there in that moment.
So safety is a key issue in working with trauma, and establishing safety in a one-to-one relationship, like in a therapy session, is one whole set of skills, but then working together in a group where there are unknown factors, everybody's got their unknown experiences that they bring into the group. How did you find the degree of safety working in the group?
Well, that's something you have to build, because we all arrived here as people who didn't know each other, and as traumatized people. So our levels of activation are probably a lot stronger. So we're looking for danger almost all the time. So it took a while to pull down the defences enough to trust each other. But I didn't see that as a bad thing, because what developed there was a very deep trust, a very special trust. I made a bond with these people, and that in itself, even without the exercises, even without the work, is incredibly healing to trauma. Is having that group of people that we all support each other and rely on each other and trust each other.
Yeah. So, and in the first module we went over key points for developing safety and trust, and and did you find that was helpful?
It was incredibly helpful, actually, because we don't always realise what we need to feel safe, and understanding as humans what our requirements are really in general for feeling safe helps you meet your own needs of safety and help others to meet their own. Yeah. So
you were then able, those skills that you learned in the first module, to immediately take into your therapy practice as well, so that when you set up your therapy space, you're able to really hold your client much more.
From day one, I always started applying these techniques and these making these changes from day one in order to incorporate this training into my work. Yeah.
And when you say techniques, I'd just like to bring that up as a point, because many people approach healing or a need for healing with a desire for a technique. If only there's like a formula or a technique, then perhaps I can be healed, and looking what are the techniques that are going to heal trauma. But I think we found that actually there was something different that happened, which wasn't just about applying a technique, although there are some particular formalised skills that one can use. There was so much more to the experience.
That's what makes it more powerful, because we are individual. If we label everyone with those techniques and think that that's what can heal us, we're only going to heal to a certain extent.
So the actual work, the trauma work, I always describe it more as an art form rather than a science, because it's a lot of subtlety to it, and it's, as you say, very individual, and it's like being able to understand, having a perception of what's going on in terms of somebody's activation and degree of safety by being able to attune to the sound of their voice, the melody of the voice, skin tones, subtle amounts of tension in the posture, and many more things that you can't really teach as a formula or a technique. But when we're working together in a group and we're beginning to witness and work, it's like you learn those things through
the practice.
Yeah,
definitely.
So did you find that worked for you, and do you feel like you're much more acutely attuned when you're with your clients now as to what was?
Yeah, it's like if I was just given a series of techniques, that's all I would have had to work with. Whereas with this training, it's like you're actually given the capacity to work with trauma, as opposed to a few techniques. So you're almost prepared for every eventuality. I mean, obviously there are uncertainties in working with people who are traumatized, always. But I feel far better equipped than if I had just learnt a few techniques. Because I'm prepared to work with the individual and those subtle changes, as opposed to just label them with something.
So it's not, there's no analysis of what's going on for a person, and like I know it's not coming from you as to what's wrong with that. You know, that there's no label stuck on that person. It's more like a receiving
and a communication. You're learning through how they're responding to how they are, rather than thinking, oh, they're like this and that's how we fix them. We're actually dealing with a in the moment process.
And the other critical thing with that, which we touched on in the, I think, module 1, is the building of empathy and compassion. And that the container of empathy and compassion being the stability with which we sit within when we're working with other people. And did you find that was helpful?
Tremendously so. You don't find that in a lot of training, that being a real focal point. And I think it added a tremendous amount of depth and power to the training and the healing, is to have that as your root. You're constantly tapping back into that. So even if we go a bit astray on certain practices, or when we're working together, is that we've got that as a constant reminder that this is why I'm here. You know, it's compassion for myself and others. Yeah,
and if I make a mistake and I get it wrong, is it okay to own it and be compassionate and say, gosh, I'm sorry, I think I'm off course here, or I was inappropriate in what just happened, and not to beat yourself up about it, and to not try and make your client wrong, and to be able
healing.
That really expands the healing, and having that as a practice then there gives the ability for your client as well to be able to start practicing empathy and compassion for themselves.
It almost gives them permission by seeing you practice it.
So are there any other examples of how it's changed your life doing the training? So you talked about things being more colourful, more sensory awareness, and also not projecting on others so much.
It creates far more potential for harmonious relationships, both professionally and in your personal life. And it made me realise how much a lot of the ups and downs that go on in my relationships I can very easily cause through my own trauma and my own projections. And through the training, being able to notice those triggers and those activations in myself and others sort of gave me some foresight, so I can avoid heading down a road that's just not a win-win for anyone. In any relationships, we create very negative potentials with those sort of responses. And being able to see when I'm getting triggered or activated, or when someone else is, and knowing that it's not about what's happening right now, but it is being triggered by something in the past, means I don't have to hold it against that person, whatever it was, but can work through it for the benefit of our relationship.
And to be able to avoid the potential conflicts, and to take space, to be present, but to take space in order to fully encompass what's going on.
And avoid just more trauma.
So one thing we talked about on the training was the role that the social nervous system, the engagement of the social nervous system has, and how that gets taken offline when we're traumatized, so that we lose our ability to connect with others and tend to shut down. So how was that helpful?
For me, it was very helpful to understand why I was acting the way I was in certain situations, particularly social situations. And it's been very beneficial for me to help with others as well, because I can read what's going on so much more for someone based on those very little subtle changes in someone's posture or facial expression or tone of voice or anything, and not take it personally. Yeah.
That if somebody is not responding in a therapy situation when you're asking them a question, it's not necessarily that they're disinterested. It might be that they're struggling with having their social engagement system online, and they may be struggling with an activation.
And it's so much more so much easier to help them knowing that, rather than thinking that there's something wrong with the session. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How else do you feel the training has helped you in the way you work as a therapist?
Well, my confidence has gone right up. My self-esteem. I feel very able now to work with my clients and continue learning as I go along, because it's a long process. But I feel happy within myself that I am able to be there for my clients, hold a space for them, and really be there for them for what they need. Yeah.
So one thing is that I just want to make it clear that this training isn't specifically to do trauma work with clients. It's a skill set that you can bring into any kind of therapeutic practice, whether you're a doctor, a dentist, a reflexologist, shamanic healer, whatever your healing modality, or whether even you're a fireman or a social worker, because it's a skill set to support you working with the people that you're working with in that relationship of caring or healing. So Maia, you particularly work as a masseur, amongst some other modalities. How did you find that it informed your work as a massage therapist?
Well, as a massage therapist, you generally putting people in a fairly vulnerable position. They're not wearing many clothes. A lot of the time they're lying face down and they can't see what you're doing. You're putting your hands on them and manipulating them. They're in a very vulnerable position. And if you can't connect with them, your client, before the session actually starts, and ensure that they feel safe, the capacity for any sort of healing and that sort of therapy is greatly reduced. It's absolutely key. I need to be able to make them feel safe and comfortable and connect with them, so I know what they need in that session.
So that in itself is a big shift even before you start. So if you think somebody coming for a massage, it's about relaxation, and they don't feel safe and their muscles are tense, then you can only do so much in terms of manipulating the muscles, moving the muscles,
physically.
But if you set up that environment of safety in the first instance, then you've already achieved a huge amount in terms of the degree with which they can relax.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And when you trained as a masseur, did you get any of this kind of information in your trainings to how you can set up this field of safety and well-being and comfort before you started?
No. A little bit on connecting with the client, but nothing like this. No, nowhere near.
So do you feel like it would be helpful in any massage training that these skills were taught?
Helpful. I think it was vital.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good therapist, not superficial, it's essential. Definitely.
So it's very much about how to be much more present and authentic, and for your client to be able to trust you and feel safe with you. Yeah. Because you feel safe, you trust and feel safe with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's been a tremendous experience teaching people these skills. As I say, it's an art form, and how do you do that? We do have some intellectual work, and we do have some academically based classes and coursework alongside the art form of teaching trauma, and a number of set books. How have you found the reading, Maia, that we...
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's been incredibly helpful. and very informative. There's some good books out there, really.
Yeah.
And Juliet knows a lot of them. They've been a tremendous tool and aid to the course, definitely. Because I can go away. I mean, when we're here in the courses, on the modules, we've got each other, we've got you there, and kind of as instant information. And those books definitely help to fill the gaps in between the modules, very much.
But for those people that don't feel particularly attuned to reading and that they don't want to use that coursework, do you feel like they would still get something out of the course?
A huge amount. Those books make up. I mean, they're very helpful, and you can take them as far as you want, but they're still not the real thing at all. So I wouldn't worry too much.
And how about the handouts, the booklets that are created for the training? Is that
they're concise and informative, not overwhelming. Because often you can get bombarded by information, and I'm dyslexic, so reading too much can be quite overwhelming for me. And they're easy to reference.
Yeah, so each module has a short coursework booklet that goes with it. And then the other thing is that we also have a private Facebook group for course participants to work together outside of the module time. How have you found that?
That's been good in the sense of when we have the gaps in between the modules, life goes on, and we can get sidetracked into life and doing everything else that we have to do. And the Facebook page has helped keep us connected as a group, so that we can share what's going on for ourselves and support others. Also, it's been helpful when we get a little stagnant or a little stuck. There's a little nudge, either from you with the questions you pose, or from hearing about what one of our fellow group members is going through, and being able to help them. So you're still practicing. So
it's an ongoing support system as well as an ongoing learning.
Yeah, definitely.
And entirely confidential. Entirely a private group.
Yeah.
So Maia's going to be assisting next year. She's been so excited by the work that she's just wanting to develop it a lot further, and I've offered her the opportunity to assist because she has a very strong empathic presence, and she loves the work. So Maia, when you on the next set of modules on the next training, what do you feel you can bring to help other people going through the 2016 training?
Well, I'm there as someone who has been through the training herself, and someone who's still developing as a therapist, and developing in my own healing and own development, and as someone who can be there to go through it with you. I can bring in another level to it, in the sense of I've done it, but I'm willing to go through it with you again. So I can almost take the first step, if you like. So when there are times when maybe we're more activated and we're not feeling so safe or confident, I can be the first one. I can go through the practice the first time, or I can talk about what happened before and add another level to the training. Walk through it with you. Yeah. By showing my vulnerabilities, by going through my own trauma, by showing my own trauma in this, I hope to help you go through your own and know that it's safe to.
And to know that you don't have to get fully sucked in and activated to a lot of painful experience, that it's just like taking a little taster, and knowing that there's a lot of support here for you to do that, and for it to be really, really well held. So Maia has wonderful holding capacity and a high degree of empathy, so I think you'll find yourself very well supported with this work. So I think we've covered a lot of the things that we wanted to share, and I really look forward to hearing from you and joining in this work, and just wishing you really, really well. And
come join us.
Come join us.